certain age that he would remember Miracle on Ice, and that is Dave Weinberg. Dave, how you doing on this Saturday?
I'm doing well, Pete. How are you?
I'm doing okay, thank you. And we have so much to ask you about the big Tyson Fury 2 and the boxing and your latest column and all that. But let's start with Miracle on Ice first and foremost. What do you remember about it? Where were you? Did you write about it? Where was Dave Weinberg in 1980?
Dave Weinberg was in college at Appalachian State University, but I do vividly remember it. Yeah, I guess what people don't. I guess Al Michaels. I guess it was Al Michaels with a famous call. Do you believe in miracles?
That's the one.
Yeah, that stuck with me for a long, long time. It was just a tremendous defining moment for those Olympics. And, Mike Eruzione and Jim Craig, the goalie, and Herb Brooks, as you mentioned. What people don't remember, and what I don't remember, really, I thought it was for the gold medal, but it really wasn't. It was the semifinal game.
Al Michaels was on with Golick and Wingo yesterday, since it's the 40-year anniversary. And he told the story about that, people forget, and it was Finland they had to beat a couple days later. They were down, Dave, 2-1 after 2 periods. They were losing to Finland, and Herb Brooks, in his motivational way, turned to them and said, if you lose this bleeping game, you'll take it to your bleeping graves. And that was his speech. That was his whole speech before they started the third period. And in a way, he's right. I mean, because they obviously won the game, won the gold medal, and 40 years later, we're still talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes a few words works wonders. And there's coaches like that who don't need to get, really emotional, no need to spew, go into a fury for a couple minutes. You just say what you really need to say, and apparently Herb had that knack for knowing just what to say at the right moment to get his team to play the way he wanted to, and as evidence, they have that gold medal.
Dave Weinberg's with us. His extra points column is up, and your latest column, of course, get ready for the Houston Asterisks this season. A lot of people, by the way, let's just start with that tidbit. People call it an asterisk. The man Rick or Richard, there is no Rick in the word asterisk, David.
No kidding. Oh, okay.
No,
my mistake.
You did it. No. You did it right. I'm praising you. You called it the
okay.
Asterisks. I'm saying a pet peeve of mine. No. I'm so sorry. Let's try that again. Take 2. Dave, great job in calling it what it actually is, an asterisk, not an asterisk.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. Okay, now I got it. All right. Oh, you're praising me. Thank you.
Of course I'm praising you. I just got to tee you up right. So let's talk a little bit about that and your latest column and the fact that Mike Trout did weigh in too, and Mike Trout tends to sort of drive right down the middle of the road, right? Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. So for Mike Trout to chime in, or LeBron's comments, they were pretty strong.
Yeah, they kind of forced me to take another look at this. As we talked about earlier, I guess I really wasn't understanding what the big deal was because this has been going on for a long time in baseball. But the fact that Mike who is pretty vanilla when it comes to these kind of things, for him to speak out about how he's lost respect for some of the players in the Astros and how it really cheapened the game, and LeBron too. Just the fact that he just seemed to, be so outraged that, sports in general would have this kind of blemish on its reputation. That made me kind of take another look at it, like I said, and I guess it is a bigger deal than what I first thought.
Dave Weinberg, his extra points, Houston Asterisks, right? It is something that's going to linger around. Obviously, I guess the word is optics, right, Dave? If the Astros owner or if the MLB commissioner could have a do-over, do you think they'd be like, yes, please, can we do that again? I mean, Rob Manfred hasn't really handled everything quite smoothly, right? Starting with Piece of Metal. What did you think when you saw that?
Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. They've kind of handled this in the worst possible way. Instead of just fessing up, apologize, the team I'm talking about, fessing up, apologizing, asking, for forgiveness or what have you. that would have been the most logical thing to do, and maybe people would have been a little more forgiving, if you will. And Manfred to almost kind of like gloss over it, to call that World Championship trophy a piece of metal was just ridiculous. And he tried to backtrack later and apologize for that, but the damage had already been done. And I know that the baseball players union is probably the most powerful union in sports, so you probably wouldn't be able to get away with suspending some players, but if you could, you should at least try and send that message that this kind of thing won't be tolerated.
Dave Weinberg's our guest with us, 97.3 ESPN columnist. Make sure you check out his Extra Points column on our website, 973ESPN.com. But for more immediate reaction, at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. And, of course, tonight, I know, Dave, you will probably take a look at Fury and Wilder, right? And this is the talk of boxing right now. Unfortunately, it's not in Atlantic City. We can go down that road again if you'd like. But I will say this, they wouldn't even let them face off. They were, they're supposed to have that traditional photo, and they didn't want any shoving and pushing. They wanted let's all get along.
Yeah, that stuff is kind of overblown a little bit. I think the original, shoving match, if you will, I think it's pretty much just for trying to hype the fight, try to sell some tickets. You see that kind of stuff at weigh-ins all the time and press conferences. But yeah, I'm definitely tuning in. I mean, I was hoping to watch it at a sports book maybe. But it turns out I don't know which one. I know at least one of them is not showing it, which I'm kind of befuddled about. But if worse comes to worse, I'll watch it home. This is one of the few that I would gladly shell out the money to watch, because I just think this is a huge heavyweight fight, the kind that we haven't seen in a long time, at least since the first time those two guys fought. And it's something that boxing really needs. And boxing, the general boxing fan is really excited about it, and I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I looked at a headline earlier in the week that said Wilder Fury 2, it's a fight so big it took 2 networks to show it. And then you mentioned the price point. Is boxing at a critical moment here? I mean, because that's usually the number one thing that people say is that, I only like the heavyweights. Well, guess what? You're getting your wish. These are the big boys. And it should all be set up for big attention, right? It should be something that's set up, and yet will it?
Yeah, but boxing needs this badly. Some people have mentioned earlier, the last time they had this kind of so-called mega fight was Mayweather and Pacquiao a few years ago. The build-up was huge. I would argue that they both were kind of like past their prime at the time, but everybody was looking forward, and and the fight was disappointing. I mean, Mayweather dominated like everybody, like I expected him to, and everybody kind of thought he would. But this one is, I think that kind of left people with a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth about showing out money to see a big fight. But I think this one, like you said, because it's heavyweights and they kind of run boxing. When you have a spectacular heavyweight fight, a potentially spectacular heavyweight fight, that draws people that might not normally watch boxing. And if these two guys can deliver, then that'll be great for the sport.
No doubt. Dave Weinberg with us. The weigh-ins, if you're curious, Fury weighed in first, 273 pounds. That's the third heaviest of his career. And then Wilder at the heaviest of his career, he's 231 pounds. And again, this is Fury Wilder 2. It's a rematch of the 2018 fight. What is it, Dave, about the heavyweight fights that draws the attention more than anything else? Why is it that that's so captivating as opposed to any of the other weights?
That's a good question, Pete. I guess it's just because of the enormity of the division. I mean, way back in the day, when you're talking about Jack Dempsey and those kind of guys, the heavyweights were a heavyweight champion was arguably the most popular athlete in the country. Baseball was probably had some fans, had their share of fans, but the NFL had yet to take off. NFL or the NBA definitely hadn't yet. NHL, same thing. So, they were the guys who commanded all the respect and all the attention. And I guess it's always been that way, and he continued on with, everybody was captivated by Mike Tyson in his prime, and other guys like George Foreman making his historic comeback, Evander Holyfield. There's just something about being the heavyweight champion of the world that is just special. I mean, there are tremendous fighters in other divisions, legendary fighters, Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Robinson. But it's just something about those big guys. The fight can end on one punch. You're captivated by it, and I guess that's the reason why it's so popular.
Dave Weinberg with us. Talk a little boxing, as tonight there's a huge matchup inside the MGM Garden Arena in Vegas. It's a dual network offering between ESPN, Fox pay-per-view, starting at 9 o'clock Eastern time. Of course, the first thing I thought of, Dave, when I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to talk to him about Wilder and Fury and talk about that matchup is, would I be watching? And I thought, well, the Sixers should play in Milwaukee at the same time. I mean, they're competing for my attention, David.
You're kidding me, right?
How could you not watch the Sixers rematch? You're not into the clap your hands Philadelphia 76ers?
Talk to me when the playoffs start.
That's true. Milwaukee is 47-8.
Yes, I'm aware that they're very good, but there's another game tomorrow. Basically, that this doesn't come around too often. There's no. I mean, people are certainly free. Maybe there's a spring training game you want to watch too. I don't know, but I just no. This has certainly captivated my attention. I would strongly urge you to reconsider.
Yeah, shell out your $80, says Dave Weinberg. Dave, let me ask you, because you mentioned spring training a second ago, and Hunter and I talked earlier in the show about the fact that NBC Sports Philadelphia is broadcasting less of the spring training games, although I am not disappointed that I can't see the very first game against the Tigers today. That does not upset me in one bit. However, tomorrow, something big's going to happen tomorrow. They are going to broadcast the game tomorrow, and it's going to be the first chance to see the new look Philly Fanatic. Have you been following this story where the Phillies have been sued for the Fanatic and the creators? Have you followed any of this at all?
No. I mean, I knew there was a new look coming, but I didn't know they were being sued about it.
Well, no, they're being sued, I think, in reaction to the new look. I think that has a lot to do with it. The story goes, and I'm going to paraphrase as best I can because I don't have it up in front of me, but I will say this, that when they created the Philly Fanatic, they signed like a limited thing with the creators, and it was kind of the guys that worked with the Jim Henson that created the Muppets and all that stuff back in the 70s. That, yep. So they had like a short little window. Then they had like a longer window that came up, like a contract that came up, last year or 2 years ago, and then they were kind of operating on that. So the Phillies look at it like, we've made this mascot our own, and the people on the other side are like, absolutely not. We still own, because they never closed that loophole, and that's where the argument comes from. So now this is coming out that the Fanatic might have new shoes, new socks. He could be thinner or wider or taller or, and to me, obviously they're getting some press out of it because, the Fanatic's going to look different. But to me, I also think from a legal standpoint, somebody's going to say, well, this is a different Philly Fanatic, so you can't sue us for that.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, I'm sure there's a method to their madness. I mean, he's the Philly Fanatic. I mean, he's not the Sesame Street Fanatic or Muppet Fanatic. I mean, he's just synonymous with the Phillies. I mean, I assume that the creators probably have a different viewpoint of it, but I'm hoping that they'll be able to resolve their differences, because I would hate to go to a game and not have that guy dancing on the dugout.
Yeah, that's the group. It's Bonnie Erickson and Wade Harrison. Erickson and Harrison filed the lawsuit, and then a couple weeks ago I saw something go by on the ticker that, MLB was trying to get it dismissed because they were trying to loop MLB in, and, the Phillies are trying to say that the 1984 renegotiation transferred the rights forever. And, of course, Erickson and Harrison are saying, au contraire, my friend, that's not the case. We still we still deserve to be compensated for it. It's sort of a little drama that's taken place. It's not something that you would think of, the Phillies, it's baseball, it moves at a slow pace, and the Fanatic, and you get a hot dog, and you get a beer. There's sort of some drama taking place off the field about this.
Man, that's surprising. I mean, it's not like he punched a kid or anything. Like another mascot did.
Allegedly, you got to use the word allegedly, David. And
allegedly, I'm sorry. That's right. That's right. Allegedly.
And there was no guilt or no charges found for my man Gritty. Keep one eye open. Now, what was Gritty's first tweet? Sleep with one eye open tonight, Bird. Everybody hated Gritty. They hated him, and then the social media account tweeted at the Penguins account. And that was the initial tweet that Gritty had. Then all of a sudden, Gritty started showing up on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Gritty, although when that alleged punching incident did happen, Gritty was in Saturday Night Live's headlines in their skit a couple weeks ago, too. All right, Dave, what else you got for me on this Saturday? Now, the weather's supposed to warm up. Are you going to play golf?
I'm going to play tomorrow. Today is the cool school pool with my two grandsons. The Cape May Elementary School has a pool there, and it's open to families on every Saturday. So my 4-year-old and my soon-to-be 2-year-old grandsons have enlisted me to be their swim instructor, coach, supporter. So, yeah, I'll be at the cool school pool for the next hour and a half later today, and then golf tomorrow, hopefully.
I just think that's great. Did you watch any of the Daytona 500? Well, I guess it got postponed to Monday, but did you see any of that, or did you follow the Ryan Newman wreck and how miraculous it is that that iconic picture of him walking out of the hospital holding the hands of his two little girls?
Yeah, that was. I didn't see much of the race. I mean, I saw bits and pieces of it, but I obviously saw the end, the fiery crash, and it was so grateful that Ryan was able to walk out of the hospital with his two children, and he's very good friends with Martin Truex Jr., who local people probably know, or I hope they do. And they're fishing buddies. They've been known to participate in this fishing tournament the day before races. Usually there's a big lake on the infield, and those guys get in a boat and pull out some bass, and they're very good friends. So yeah, I was very thankful and grateful. It was great to see that Ryan was able to recover from those injuries.
It really shows you how far they've come since Dale Sr.'s accident and how safe the cars are. I mean, it looked really, really bad. Now, what we didn't know at home, or I was out at a restaurant, it was President's Day, so most people, or a lot of people, didn't have to work. I didn't have to work, so I was out at a restaurant watching the end of the race, just wanting it to end. And the infamous Daytona wrecks, as they're all kind of racing for position at the end, seemed to be sort of slowing down the final. And then what I didn't know was that at the track, they put up like black sheets, or they put stuff up so the fans couldn't see anything. And that they didn't even discuss that on television. And because you didn't see it, and because they didn't discuss it, the people that were there, that sent them into a whole new level of panic that something was really, really bad or really, really wrong. And it's a shame because, information, I know you follow Twitter decently and you tweet, and I follow Twitter if something's really going on, I go to Twitter to find out what's up. And there were tweets at that point that were coming out, be respectful, let this process play itself out. And it took a while until we could find out that Ryan Newman was okay.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know they had put up the black sheet. That's I'm sure that the fans that were at the Speedway were probably scared, fearful of, maybe another tragedy hitting the sport. And that's kind of odd that they would do that. I'm kind of surprised by it.
Dave Weinberg's with us. Remember, follow him on Twitter at Dave Weinberg19, and please read his work on our website at 973ESPN.com. He's got a twice-weekly column, Extra Points. His latest one appropriately uses the correct word, asterisk.
Thanks, Pete.
ASTERISKS. And it's not a Rick. There's no Rick in asterisk. Read that. Read about boxing, coming back to the boardwalk, and more.